Hello and welcome to my virtual presentation. I'm Dr. Kibet from the Center for Open Distance and E-Learning, Machakos University. I want to request you to kindly subscribe to my video so that you can receive notifications whenever I post a new video. You can also like or even share with your friends. This video is meant for practicing and aspiring teachers. I want us to begin now. The topic of my presentation is lesson planning. What is a lesson plan? A lesson plan is the instructor's roadmap of what students need to learn and how it will be done effectively during the class time. It can also be said to be a teacher's daily guide for what students need to learn, how it will be taught, and how learning will be measured. It's also an outline showing systematic steps or stages to be followed by the teacher when teaching any given content. So before you plan for your lesson, you'll first need to identify the learning objectives for the class meeting. A lesson plan consists of a theme or a topic, sub-theme or a subtopic, time frame, which is a day and time lessons to be taught, the age group or the class, the lesson objectives, the teachers and children's activities, teaching materials and resources, as well as the remarks column. The importance of lesson planning. What is the importance of the lesson plan? A lesson plan helps in identifying any impending challenges that must be overcome to ensure success of the lesson. During lesson planning, identification of the necessary teaching resources needed are made or put in place. Lesson planning helps in managing teaching time well and in coming up with appropriate motivational and relevant teaching modes for use when teaching. A lesson plan helps teachers to advise parents of young children and the community in providing an extra help required to improve children's performance. A lesson plan helps create a logical sequence for the lesson. It also forms a record of what has been taught. And finally, it is a working document. Now, at this juncture, I want us to look at the key parts of a lesson plan. A lesson plan has 6 key parts that all teachers must know. 1, lesson objectives. 2, related requirements. 3, lesson materials. 4, lesson procedure. 5, assessment method. And 6, the lesson reflections. So I want us to look at these 6 key parts of a lesson plan, one at a time. So I want us to begin with lesson objectives. Lesson objectives lists what learners will be able to do after completing the lesson. These objectives let you easily tell if your lesson has effectively taught your learners new concepts and skills. In lesson planning, we must use the SMART criteria to determine your lesson objectives. And these are, we can answer the following question. The SMART objectives. The criteria is the objective specific? Is objective measurable? Is the objective attainable by all the students or the learners? Is the objective relevant to your class and students? And is the objective time-bound to align with your syllabus? For each objective, it is important to start with an action that relates to what learners should be able to do after the lesson. Number 2, related requirements. These are the national, the state, or the school standards that dictate what you need to teach in a class. If you teach a CTE course, you are likely need to tie up your lesson to certification requirements. Every lesson you teach should help you hit those requirements. So listing them in your lesson plans helps you satisfy those requirements. Some administrators require teachers to show how they will teach course standards in each lesson. If you put them on your lesson plans, you have got a quick reference to prove you are on the ball. When listing course standards or certification items on your lesson plan, it is smart to use the exact organizational system found on your standard to make sure your class aligns. If you don't have specific outline for your course standards, consult other teachers or your administrator where you can find. And finally, to get detailed certification requirements, check the certification provider's website for an exam outline or a test plan. Lesson materials. These are a list of materials that you need to teach the lesson and measure your students' outcomes. This section prepares you to deliver your lessons every day. Without this list, you may accidentally forget to print an important document or sign out the shared laptop card. Common types of lesson materials include the following: 1. Students' handouts, textbooks, visual aids, grading rubrics, activity packets, computer, stock tablets. So the list of materials for each lesson depends on what you plan to teach, how you will teach it, and how you will measure lesson objectives. Because of this, many teachers compile their list of lesson materials in tandem with their lesson procedure. Let's look at the lesson procedure. This is an in-depth explanation of how the lesson will progress in the classroom. The lesson procedure is essentially step-by-step instructions that walk you through everything from the time learners enter the classroom until the end of the period. It is a smart to be very detailed in this portion of your lesson plan. When writing your lesson procedure, you need to choose the type of activities that will help learners meet the lesson objectives. Assessment method. The assessment method measures whether your learners learned a lesson information and met your lesson objectives. The methods listed on your lesson plan will most often be formative assessment and vary from lesson to lesson. There are many ways to measure learners' learning through formative assessment. This includes 1. Quizzes, hands-on activities, writing assignments, group presentations, exit slips, class journal entries. Your assessment method may be an in-class assignment or homework for students to complete before the next class. The purpose of this assignment is to measure how well your learners learned the lesson's materials based on the way you presented information. And lastly, lesson reflections. The lesson reflection portion of a lesson plan encourages teachers to take notes on how to improve the lesson after it has been completed. At this point, your lesson has clear objectives, a plan for teaching, and a way to assess students' learning. But if you don't critically consider whether you succeeded, then you are doing a disservice to your future students. So when completing your lesson reflection, you need to ask yourself the following questions. 1. Did a part of the lesson take place longer than expected? Was there a portion that learners asked for a lot of help with? Did learners go through the information with no problems? Were learners engaged and interested in the lesson? And finally, were the objectives met by most of all of the learners? So this marks the end of my virtual presentation where we've been discussing about lesson planning. If you like my video, kindly subscribe to enable notifications whenever I post a new video. You can also like and you can also share it with your friends. Thank you.